Kyle Bradish is a guy that's dealing with a UCL injury. Then we're looking at Spencer Strider's done. Perez is done. Bieber's done. You got Garrett Cole. That is, who knows the timeline there. And you talked about it in the article, and you've been very diligent on this over the years. Training has changed. Rules have changed. But it doesn't seem like this is ultimately moving the best way for these pitchers and the sport of baseball long term.
No, it's really problematic. And like this, for me, this issue personally goes back more than a decade now. It was 2012. I think it was right around July or so. And I had talked with some people in the Orioles at the time, among them, like the way that they were babying their pitchers in the minor leagues. It was Dylan Bundy with the Orioles at the time. And, he had thrown 170 something pitches in a high school game. And so, of course, those were like taking a lot of caution with him. But in addition to that, the Blue Jays at the time had Noah Syndergaard, Aaron Sanchez, and Justin Nicolino. And I asked Alex Anthopoulos, who was running the Blue Jays, like, why are you doing this? Like, why are you limiting them to, 1-2 innings at a time? How are you going to build them up to be big league starters, guys who ostensibly should be going 7, 8, 9 innings if they're going only 1 or 2 innings in their formative years? And his answer was really telling to me and really honest. And I appreciate it in hindsight, because he said, I don't know. And he didn't say it like to be flip or to sound ignorant. He actually didn't know what the answer was. And I think it's a very human thing that when you see somebody getting injured doing something, you believe that doing less of it is going to get them injured less frequently. As we've seen, that is decidedly not the case, because guys are going shorter than ever in their starts, and they're getting hurt more than ever now. And what the actual cause of that is, I wish I had the answer to. I spent 4 years trying to answer that question for my book. And it was the part where I look back now on not just that time spent, but like the finished product itself. And I'm really proud of a lot of it. And I think, a lot of it holds up still 8 years later. But I was at that point, and I'm still now, dissatisfied that I never came to a conclusion on what exactly it is. Like, did I not look into it deep enough? Did I not do enough research? Did I not talk with the right people? I think the answer is there's really not a panacea out there. There's not something that's going to keep all guys healthy. But what I think we have learned is that throwing extraordinarily hard is in almost all cases going to wind up with your ulnar collateral ligament shredded. And maybe it takes a little while longer with some guys. Justin Verlander's lasted until past his 40th birthday. But most, it's going to happen pretty early. And Strider, if he needs another Tommy John, that'll be his second by the time he's 25 years old. I look at Grayson Rodriguez right now, and I worry about him, because when you look at the guys who are top 10, top 15, top 20 in average fastball velocity over the last 4 or 5 seasons, it's like 70% of them have needed Tommy John, and Rodriguez is on that list. And so, the part that to me I can't fathom is knowing you are so good at something that it's going to harm you.
Yeah.
Like, how do you go out there as a pitcher every time and go and execute the way that you've been taught to, while understanding that that very execution could ultimately lead to your demise? It's a ridiculous conceit. And it puts pitchers in such an enormously bad position that's why I think everybody needs to be involved in this. It needs to be players. It needs to be the league. It needs to be youth organizations. It needs to be everyone at all levels of baseball trying to understand the arm better and trying to, if not entirely solve this problem, then at least address it in a meaningful way.
Yeah. And I, it is crazy when you think about it that way, because the ticking time bomb reference has been the new theme. Now, Tommy John, as you know, Jeff, and you've mentioned it, Tommy John surgery is not the end all that it was, or the situation it was decades ago. When you had a UCL injury, it was your career possibly is done. But the problem is, and you've mentioned it before, I've seen, if you have one Tommy John and you have to have another, and then there's another complication, yes, you could bounce back, but it further could harm you. And it doesn't mean that you're going to get back to that point. Another example, and just the last follow-up, but the year I got drafted and signed, I think it was 2014. The Marlins had a pitcher named Tyler Kolek that was throwing 100.
I remember.
You remember him. So Kolek, number two overall pick. And Tyler Kolek never got out, I think, a double-A. But if I'm not mistaken, I think he had arm issues. But the point where I was going to, and same with the Bundys, guys are throwing even harder at a younger age, more stress, more strain. So I guess in this case, when we're looking at it, I guess the last thing I'll ask with this follow-up of it, with baseball, with how it is, and people are saying the pitch clock issues you've seen in the reports, there's nothing out there, like you said, that's saying that the game's changing. But at what point are they going to have to try to change the philosophy, or are we already past that point of saying, hey, we're going to have to change it because short term we might get wins today, but long term these guys might not be able to go for longer careers that we're hoping for?
So I'll try and hit all the points, and my memory is not what it used to be, but I will start here. The greatest predictor of a future arm injury is a past arm injury. If you have gotten hurt in the past, you are far likelier to get hurt in the future, which is the scary part of all this, right? That, you know, these guys who are getting injured right now, it's generally not just a one-time thing. And we look at Tommy John surgery as something of a miracle surgery, because it is. It's been almost too successful. I never thought I would say that about a medical procedure, but it's so good at getting guys to return, and a lot of them to return to their previous level, that, you know, Scott Boras, when I was reporting the book, said it's a rite of passage now. And that's fucked up. Like really? That you have to have major reconstructive surgery as part of your job? Is that something that should be written into the script for players' careers? No. But the problem is, the more numbers that we've gotten, the more this has been validated, that when you throw harder, you succeed more. And so the incentive structure is there at every level for pitchers to try and throw harder. It's there in high school because they know that they're going to get recruited if they hit 90 miles per hour. Right? Like if you throw 90, you will play college ball somewhere. May not be high major D1, but it will be somewhere, and you will be able to play at another level. Then the draft comes along, and if you're throwing 95, you're probably going to get drafted somewhere. You know, if you can get the ball anywhere near the plate, chances are good that you're going to get drafted. And then if you're in the minor leagues, if you're up to 98, all of a sudden, you know, there are going to be a lot of people who look to promote you, because if you're hitting 98, well, you can probably hit 100 at some point. If you're hitting 100, you're almost always going to make the big leagues. And so it's there every step along the way. I see it. I see it personally because I have a 16-year-old who's a pitcher. And guess what? He wants to throw harder. And part of me is like, hey, let's work on command. Like, let's see if you can dot a fastball on both corners in all four quadrants. And, you know, when we put your 9 pocket out there, I say upper left, lower middle, and you can throw it in there. Like, let's do that. But it's not that he's looking for shortcuts. It's that he reads the room. Yeah. And he understands that even if he dots his fastball and that makes him a really effective high school pitcher, when it comes to colleges that are looking for guys, maybe they're going to look at the high school numbers. Maybe they'll look at your ERA, your strikeout to walk, how many home runs you give up, you know, things like that. But more than anything, a lot of that is a function of the teammates who are surrounding you, and the radar gun is as objective as it can get. And when the radar gun says something, and that something aligns with what you're looking for in pitchers, as it does in so many cases with college coaches who are trying to recruit, if you want to play college ball, you throw harder. It's the easiest path toward it. And I'm not saying that going down the easiest path is the right thing to do necessarily, but it's the path that most are going to take.